Our speaker is the president of Courage Philippines. That is a Catholic apostolate for persons with same-sex attraction. He's a graduate of the De La Salle University with a degree in economics and marketing management. In terms of his formal faith formation, is from the Franciscan Capuchins, and he has been connected with the Opus Dei since the 1990s, where he is now a cooperator. He learned about courage and joined it after attending his annual Opus Dei retreat back in 2014 upon the advice of his spiritual director. He is currently taking his Master's of Arts in Theology at the Don Bosco Center of Studies, an affiliate of the Pontifical Salesian University. So without further ado, brothers and sisters, I'd like to call to the stage Edwin Valles.
Thank you for inviting me. So I'll just briefly start with talking about what courage is. So courage is a Catholic apostolate for persons with same-sex attraction. It started actually in the US in 1980. So it's an international organization. So noong 1980, I think siguro most of us were born during that time. But who can say who could remember what was happening in the US in 1980? Late 70s, early 80s. So basically that time, this is when HIV/AIDS started to explode in the US. So when it started to explode, initially the medical community in the US thought it was gay cancer. So because it seems to be affecting the gay members of the population in the US. And then there were two ground zeros in the US. So New York City was one and San Francisco was the other. So at the time, the Archbishop of New York, servant of God, Terence Cardinal Cook, decided that he wanted to provide a pastoral accompaniment program for members of his archdiocese struggling with same-sex attraction. So he invited a priest to set up the Courage Apostolate. In the Philippines, it started in 1995. So like in the US, it was the late Jaime Cardinal Sin who decided out of his pastor's heart to also put up a support system for homosexual persons in the Philippines, or specifically in the Archdiocese of Manila. The canonical status of courage, so what is our identity within the Catholic Church? It is a diocesan clerical public association. So diocesan, the bishop has to approve the setting up of a courage chapter. So for the longest time, courage is only in Manila. So we've attempted to set up courage chapters in other parts of the country. By God's grace, we will be setting up soon a chapter for the Diocese of Parañaque. So I'll tell you more about that later. And then clerical, very important, courage is a priestly apostolate. So hindi po porque ako yung president ng courage, I'm the one leading them. So because like them, like the other members of courage, I continue to struggle with same-sex attraction. So it cannot be a blind person leading another blind person. So that's why very important yung role ng priest. So I guess ito yung mga challenges ng courage. We all know na yung priest to parishioner ratio in the Philippines is so parang lopsided, diba? So but still parang we are faithful to the structure of courage. So that's why we have to abide by that particular guideline. So yeah. Okay. So why are we doing this? Specifically, ano bang connection ng homosexuality with family in life? So as June already hinted at earlier, we're actually just merely abiding or parang trying to follow what Pope Francis mentioned in the Amoris Laetitia. So there was one paragraph in Amoris Laetitia which covered homosexuality. It was in paragraph 250. And he said, during the synod, we discussed the situation of families whose members include persons who experience same-sex attraction. A situation not easy either for parents or for children. Such families should be given respectful pastoral guidance so that those who manifest a homosexual orientation can receive the assistance they need to understand and fully carry out God's will in their lives. So that's what we are going to do tonight. Diba? So yung traditional presentation namin has 5 points, so 5 pastoral accompaniment points. But I think because this is for a parents forum, I'll be spending more time on the first 2 just to manage the time. But hopefully I will still cover quickly yung last 3 points. And then divided siya into 2 sections. Parang ang guideline per section will be a gospel reflection. So yung first gospel reflection natin will be on the parable of the Good Samaritan. So, we all know this story from the Gospel of St. Luke. So, Jesus Christ was approached by a Pharisee. Tinatanong siya kung ano ba ang most important commandment. Diba? So, out of 600 plus commandments, each rabbi will have a favorite. So, this particular Pharisee was trying to test Jesus Christ, ano ba yung pinaka-importanting commandment for you? And then Jesus Christ replied, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, etc., etc., and love your neighbor as yourself. But the story goes, or continues, the Pharisee wished to justify himself. Sabi niya, but who is my neighbor? Diba? So, and yung context nun, for the Jews, yung neighbor lang nila are other Jews. Diba? So, pag sinabi nilang, who is my neighbor? These are also Jews like me. Diba? So, and so, Jesus Christ, trying to answer the person who asked him, told this parable. Diba? So, when Jesus Christ started to tell the story, si yung nagtanong sa kanya, ay alam ko na yung sagot na to, diba? Kasi parang common tong story na to, narinig ko na to before, alam ko na yung sagot, diba? So Jesus Christ was telling that story. There's a detail in the parable of the Good Samaritan that would have told the person who asked Jesus Christ whether yung tao was Jew or not. Sinong nakakaalala ng story na yon? Nung parable of the Good Samaritan. Anyway, because he was attacked by the robbers, kinuha na siya ng gamit at hinubaran, di ba? So, the person lying on the ground who was attacked by robbers was naked, di ba? So, and because he was a man, and because he was naked, the Pharisee could just say, I will look if that man is circumcised or not, di ba? So, if he was circumcised, he's a Jew, therefore he is my neighbor. Diba? If he's not circumcised, he's not a Jew, therefore he is not my neighbor. So I will not help him. So akala niya, ang tatanungin ni Jesus Christ is that person your neighbor? Diba? So, but Jesus Christ changed the question. But instead of asking the Pharisee, is that your neighbor and should you help him? Jesus Christ changed the question into who was neighbor to that victim. Diba? So we will start off our discussion on the LGBT, on homosexual persons, to ourselves, for asking the question to ourselves first. Diba? So parang bago natin pag-usapan yung may LGBT at homosexual persons, let's first look at ourselves first. Diba? So, and how we treat them. Diba? So yan. So that's the first point, and which is about identity. So, when we talk about identity, there are two opposing views that are being presented to us when it comes to LGBT. So there's the world view, and then there's also the Christian view. So the world tells us that you are your sexual attraction. Diba? So yan yung sinasabi ng mundo. Kung kanino tayo sexually attracted, that defines who we are. Diba? So if I'm a male, I'm attracted to a female, therefore, I'm straight, di ba? So, everything about me is that I'm straight, di ba? Ganun din. Ako, for example, I'm male, I'm attracted to another male. Everything about me is that I'm gay, di ba? So, if I'm wearing a polo shirt na blue, ganyan, na naka-open both buttons because I'm gay, di ba? So, ganyan. Everything about me is defined by my sexual attraction. So, fortunately for us, the Christian perspective of identity is much more than a sexual attraction. So, as our teachings tell us, our identity is based on how God created and saved us, diba? So, yes, I may be sexually attracted to another male. It can be a powerful part of me, but it's only a part of me, diba? So, it doesn't define who I am, diba? So, so yun yung two distinctions. So, let's dwell a bit on the secular way of looking at things. So, from the secular viewpoint, there are three major concepts, but distinct but related. So, there's biological sex, what are we born with, ano yung body part. Gender identity is how do we identify ourselves. So, while we expect that everyone will identify their gender according to their biological part, it doesn't happen in all cases, diba? So, and then third will be sexual orientation. So, while we expect that once we identify ourselves as male, we will be sexually attracted to the opposite sex, again, it doesn't happen all the time. So, these are three related concepts but distinct, diba? So just to go through the basic LGBTQI letters, so for example, lesbian, biological sex female, gender identity is male, yung traditional expectation natin of lesbian, but not all lesbians identify themselves to be male. There are actually lesbians who identify themselves as female, di ba? So when I was active in the gay lifestyle, we used to call them as lipstick lesbians, di ba? So pag tinignan nyo, mukhang babae, di ba? Nagli-lipstick, fully made up, sexy magdamit, di ba? Talagang feminine na feminine, di ba? So, but that has nothing to do with their gender identity. Yung being lesbian has everything to do with their sexual orientation because they're attracted to another female. So whether male or female identified. For gays, biological sex male, yung traditional expectation natin gay, yung effeminate, yung talagang parlorista, ganyan. But kung dati nakikita mga Becky sa parlor, ngayon nakikita na rin sila sa gym, di ba? So gwapong-gwapo, macho, lalaking-lalaki kumilos. So male gender identity, but yung sexual attraction is towards another male, di ba? So again, wag tayong ma-confuse doon, di ba? Yung that gender identity, so versus sexual orientation. So next set, bisexual. So bisexual man, biological sex male, gender identity male, either or yung sexual orientation niya, either male or female. So kung first two is yung gender identity, yung either or, yung next set, ang either or will be the sexual orientation. So, by woman, biological sex female, gender identity female, sexual orientation male or female. Just going through the letters, so transgender, so trans man, biological sex female, gender identity male, sexual orientation female, also known as Jake Cyrus, diba, or I Segura, diba? So, they're in the process of transitioning. So, trans woman, biological sex male, gender identity female, sexual orientation male. And then, yung QI letters, so intersex is something like all of the above, and then queer is something like none of the above. Parang test sa school, diba? So, but this is just, of course, an exaggeration, diba? So, but yung intersex is something like it applies to all parang labels. Ito naman yung mga queer, they don't want to be boxed to any label, diba? So, just to illustrate the point. So, ito po yung, this is how, I guess, way of navigating through all the letters of the LGBT movement. So this model was 4 years ago. Merong mga updated version na to, di ba? So yung after this it came parang yung model nila was known as the gender-bread person. So version 2.0. From 3 ginawa nilang 4, di ba? So pareho pa rin yung biological sex, pareho pa rin yung sexual attraction, but they've split yung gender identity into gender identity and gender expression. So one is more interior, and then gender expression is more exterior. So yan yung masculine acting or feminine acting. So okay pa rin, understandable. But yung most recent version na to is when things really get scary. Ito na yung, I think ito yung sinasabi ni Pope Francis na ideological colonization. So we will see na parang it is taking parang yung concept of humanity to parang unfathomable level. So yung next version, so yung lumabas ng gender-bread person, sabi nila, bakit yung icon na yun mukhang lalaki? So it's discriminatory. It doesn't represent all of us. So sabi nila, wag na lang mukhang lalaki, hayop na lang ang magre-represent sa atin, di ba? So kasi nga may identity ng male or female. So instead of a person-looking icon, they came up with a gender unicorn, di ba? So hayop na lang daw ang magre-represent sa mga LGBT, di ba? So and then from 4 they've expanded it to 5. So from biological sex, they changed it to sex assigned at birth, di ba? So kita nyo, yung slate of hand dun sa terminology makes a world of difference. It's coming actually from a from a perspective that one's biological sex is only a social construct. So yun yung pinopropose nilang model na parang yung pagkalalaki or pagkababae ng tao is only dictated by society. It's as if there's no objective basis for gender or sexuality. And then the other scary part is yung sexual attraction, they've split it into 2. Physically attracted to and emotionally attracted to, diba? So they've managed to split the human person into physical and emotional. So may mga taong pangkatawan lang, di ba? So physically attracted to, and then may mga taong pangpuso, emotionally attracted to, di ba? So yan. So ito po yung latest version ng gender ideology. So is this clear? Okay. So now we go to the Christian way of doing things, or Christian way of looking at things. So for a Christian perspective, there are also three distinct but related concepts. So first concept is the human person. So per teaching of the Catholic Church, so made in the image and likeness of God, male and female, He created them. So each human person is an imago Dei, so in the image and likeness of God. Next is inclination. So all persons will have inclination, both positive and negative. And because it is part of man's fallen nature due to original sin, lahat po tayo may kanya-kanyang negative inclination. So, and it means a lot of things, di ba? So it can be negative inclination to food, di ba? So katakawan, negative inclination to money, gahaman sa pera or sa power. It just so happens that for one group of particular people, the negative inclination is manifested in sex, so sexual attraction, di ba? So, parang attraction to the same sex. And then third, so inclination stems from the person but should not define the person. So, the person is always bigger than the inclination. And then finally, the third point is action, di ba? So, action stems from inclination, stems from person but should not define the person. So, ano ba yung tamang response for each of these three distinct and related concepts? So, person must be loved. So, alam natin yan. So, charity, everyone must be, para every person must be loved. And then second, inclination, there has to be some honesty and self-discipline, particularly on the negative inclination. So, the one experiencing or who has that negative inclination, which is all of us, we have to be honest kung ano ba yung mga negative inclinations na yun and struggle to fight against them, diba? So, and then action, dito po may specific judgment yung simbahan. So again, part of the dignity of a human person is freedom. So no matter the inclination or the circumstance, there's still freedom to choose whether to act or not to act on that particular inclination. So, and because there's freedom involved, good actions are approved and then bad actions are rejected. So when the church says that homosexual acts are evil, they always refer to the action but never the person. So last year we had a partnership with Singles for Christ. So yung Singles for Christ na yun, so you're quite familiar. Meron din couples coordinator yung household na yun. So yung couples coordinator nun called me up. Sabi niya, Edwin, ano bang gagawin ko dun sa member ng SFC household na female, na lesbian, na who's having problems with a lesbian, with her lesbian lover? Sabi ko, oh, what happened? Sabi niya, kasi itong lesbian member ng SFC, when she joined that SFC chapter, she never disclosed that she was in a lesbian relationship. So, sabi niya, parang mali na yun. Okay, what else? So, nung ngayon nagkakaproblema na tong si lesbian member, let's call her Mary. Now, she's having a problem with her lesbian lover named Elizabeth. Sabi niya, parang, kasi si Elizabeth daw, hinahack yung email niya, ina-emotional blackmail siya, parang, pag hiniwalayan mo ako, magsusuicide ako, ganyan. So, basically, tinotorment si Mary nitong lesbian lover niya na si Elizabeth. So, sabi ko, so hindi namin na lang gagawin namin kasi na-scandalize na yung household ni Mary, yung mga sisters sa household niya. Hindi namin alam ang gagawin. So, in-elevate na sa household niya, in-elevate na sa akin. Diba? So, sabi ko sa kanya, what if we change the detail in the story a bit? Diba? So, what if si Mary is engaged to a man named Joseph and nakikita mo na si Joseph was abusive to Mary? Diba? So, para alam mo yun, parang engaged pa lang sila, hindi pa lang sila mag-asawa, abusive na si Joseph. Clearly, parang Mary is in a toxic relationship. So what will you do in that case? Sabi niya, well, in that case, I will advise Mary, I will make her see that she's in a toxic relationship, and when she sees that, I will encourage her to leave or to not push through the marriage plans with Joseph, and if she does that, I will make sure that the household, her household will support her to recover from that breakup. Sabi ko sa kanya, so what's the difference? Diba? So why can you not advise the same from Mary, to parang making her see that she's in a toxic relationship with Elizabeth and making her decide, helping her decide to leave her and to support her when she leaves Elizabeth behind. Kasi nga, si couples coordinator parang has reduced that member, Mary, into just a lesbian. Because siguro, feeling niya hindi siya lesbian, she doesn't share in the struggles of Mary. So, she feels that she's not in a position to help her, diba? So, yun yung subtle, parang that's what, parang the ideology, parang affects us as well, diba? So, parang it also, in a way, inhibits us from helping other people, diba? Kasi parang, if we reduce them to what they do or to their inclination, we feel that we do not have anything common with them, diba? But, all of us are human persons, and because all of us are human persons, there we can actually reach out and help one another, diba? So, klaro po ba yun? Okay, so that's the first point. This is also what the Vatican document specifically states. So this is issued by the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith. So we all know that is the supreme doctrinal authority in the Church. So it was written in 1986. So if there's one document that you would like to read, so if you want to review some more after this particular talk, you want to know more about yung pastoral accompaniment, ito po yung, I think this is one of the best documents ever written. So very comprehensive, very detailed. So it says, let's kindly read together, the human person made in the image and likeness of God, and insists that every person has a fundamental identity, the creature of God, and by grace, His child and heir to eternal life. So clear yung teaching ng simbahan. So the Church refuses to consider the person heterosexual or homosexual. Ito pong mga terminology nito, this is what the world, ito yung terminology ng mundo, di ba? So, hindi po siya terminology ng simbahan. So, parang yung simbahan hindi niya tinitingnan ng tao sa heterosexual or homosexual, di ba? So, ang identity ng lahat ng tao are children of God, di ba? So, very clear yung teaching ng simbahan. So, I hope, because we are quite active in the church, di ba? We should be the last persons to call people gay or lesbian, di ba? So, even if referring to them as third persons, diba? We should call them by their baptismal name, so how they are received in the Christian church, diba? So very important yan. So I guess this is also an added context when Pope Francis said that we would like before all else to reaffirm that every person regardless of sexual orientation ought to be respected in his or her dignity and treated with consideration, while every sign of unjust discrimination is to be carefully avoided, particularly any form of aggression or violence. So yun yung discrimination is yung active, yung talagang minamalit sila. But another form of discrimination is actually reducing them to their tendency or their actions, diba? So, ayan. So basically, ito po yung point. So, child of God. And parang that facilitates parang our accompaniment of our brothers and sisters who experience same-sex attraction, leading them to the Son of God Himself. So, very important po yung concept na identity of child of God. So, because being begets doing, identity defines destiny. So ako, personally, I have an experience on this. So I was active in the gay lifestyle for 22 years. So from 18 years old up to 40 years old. I joined Courage in 2014. I think sometime 2012, I attended my usual annual retreat with the Opus Dei. So yung Opus Dei retreat is a silent retreat. So we're not allowed to talk to anyone except to the priest during spiritual direction. So, nung time na yon, sabi ko sa priest, for all the many years that I've been attending retreats with the Opus Dei, I never talked about my homosexuality. Kasi nga, Opus Dei, conservative, diba? So, baka hindi na ako pag-attendan ng retreat the next year, diba? So, I didn't want to be judged that way. So, but when God prepared me to be open about it, to openly discuss about my homosexual struggles with the priest, I told him, Father, my problem is that I'm a homosexual. Diba? So, akala ko, si Opus Dei priest, babasahan ako ng Sodom and Gomorrah, di ba? Yung typical reaction ng mga taong simbahan, di ba? So, nako, lalamunin ka ng lupa, ganyan, parang fire and brimstone, di ba? Masama yan, you're condemned, you will surely go to hell. So, but I was surprised that the response of the priest to me was very kindly. Sabi niya lang sa akin, no, Edwin, you're not a homosexual, you're a child of God. So, nagulat ako. Parang sabi ko, parang ilang taon ko, parang nag-master ng strength to out myself. At ito, hindi mo i-acknowledge yung pag-out ko sa'yo. But to be honest, parang yung truth that kindly priest planted in me, even up to now. So this like 6 years ago, I continue to meditate on the relevance of that identity that he planted on me, di ba? So, bakit ba importante yon sa akin? So, for all the many years that I was active in the gay lifestyle, I was also active in the church, di ba? So, hindi naman ako nawala. Nagsisimba pa rin ako every Sunday. And I was trying to change, di ba? So, I was trying to change. But because, parang I continue to fail, di ba? Kasi nga, feeling ko, if I'm trying to change, I feel that it's a deprivation of who I am, di ba? So, kasi nga, pag hindi ako nagko-commit ng homosexual acts, para kung dinideprive ang sarili ko of who I am, di ba? So kaya parang for many years that I've been trying to change and at the same time being active in the gay lifestyle, parang torn ako between two parang opposite goals, di ba? So kaya siguro hindi rin naging possible for me yung conversion. So just to explain this a bit more, so another model. So, lahat po tayo, personalities at age 1 are determined by our own respective temperament. So, alam niyo po to, lahat ng mga babies may kanya-kanyang temperament, di ba? So, kanya-kanya po yan. And then also, yung attachment, according to psychologists or mga developmental psychologists, it also determined by our attachment experience with our parents or with adults. So, we will look at 2 cases. So, case 1, during separation and individuation stage, so age 1 to 3, so the case of 2 boys, so boy in case 1, so the mom allows the boy to separate or the dad rescues the boy. So ito yung parang, ito yung experience ni boy in case 1. But dun sa boy in case 2, during this stage, the mom holds back on the boy. So sobrang attached si nanay, ayaw mag-let go sa anak na lalaki, or sa the dad does not rescue the boy at this particular age, or parang hindi nagkakaroon ng parang initial bonding with the father yung boy at this stage, di ba? So then this can mean a lot of things, di ba? Pwedeng not physically present si father, etc. Progressively, during the gender identity phase, so age 3 to 5, si boy in case 1, so boy enters the male world and is greeted by strong and caring father. So at this stage, the boy in case 1 tends to spend more and more bonding moments with the father, diba? So okay, yung experience with the father and the mother here, okay yung experience progressively with the father here, dun sa boy in case 1. But this is not true in all cases. So the boy in case 2, at this particular age, the boy enters the male world and is greeted by either a hostile father, yung sobrang disciplinarian or sobrang rigid, sobrang strict, or opposite niyan is a weak father, diba? So either in a family setup, mas dominant yung nanay, diba? So lumalabas na weak yung tatay. So yung experience ng boy in case 2 at this particular stage, when he should be more and more identifying himself to be male, is parang not going along well, diba? So progressively, as during the peer integration, so when the 2 boys start to go to school, so boy in the case 1, boy engages with the other boys and feels like one of the boys. Siyempre, kasi before that, positive yung experience niya with masculinity kasi maganda yung relationship niya with his father. Obviously, when he goes to school, very confident siya to deal with other boys his age, diba? Kasi overall positive yung experience with manhood, diba? Or masculinity. But unfortunately for the boy in case 2, when he goes to school, because of a prior negative relationship with the father or negative relationship with masculinity in general, we should not be surprised that the boy in case 2 has difficulty engaging and does not feel like one of the boys, diba? So, yung mga sa school stage, medyo na may pinanggalingan na yon, diba? Based on this particular model. And then progressively, during the pre-puberty age, so nag-start na magkaroon ng sexual attraction. So the boy in case 1, the surge of hormones stimulates erotic interest towards that which he believes will fill his unmet emotional needs, which in the case of boy 1 is femininity. Diba? But unfortunately for the boy in case 2, surge of hormones stimulates erotic interest towards that which he believes will fill his unmet emotional needs, same-sex integration, and gender identification. Kasi nga, mas basic yung need for same-sex integration and gender identification. So, kaya yung psychological growth and development ng tao will try to fill up that need first, di ba? Kasi mas basic yung need na yon, di ba? So, yan. So, clear? Okay. When I was presenting this, tinatanong ko, bakit puro boys, di ba? So, kasi nga, una-una, I'm a boy, di ba? So, I can explain the boy side better. But for this particular presentation, I'm borrowing the slide of a psychologist. So, June attended the presentation at the Diocese of Parañaque. So, during this stage, there was a psychologist who presented this. So, she has a separate presentation for the female development of same-sex attraction. So, I will just quickly go through that on the next slide. So, some are similar, but some are also different, di ba? So, possible causes for female, so according to counseling experiences, so unfulfilled longings for nurturance. So either nung bata yung female, there was a narcissistic or controlling mother. So yun, masyadong imposing yung nanay sa kanya. Or second, disappointment or loneliness from marriage. So we have a Courage sister who was like this, diba? So she was unhappy with her husband, and because of that unhappy marriage or unhappy relationship, parang na-push siya to get into same-sex relationship. Kasi dun sa another female, dun niya nakukuha yung emotional connection that she never gets from her husband, diba? So yeah. Second, conscious rejection of her female identity. So femininity is undesirable. Mothers are perceived weak or are abused. So we have a case of another sister. Ganito yung nangyari sa kanya. When she was growing up, her father was an alcoholic. So lasinggero yung tatay. And whenever that her father maglalasing, parang drinking session, the father will be hurtful to the mother, diba? So parang sinasaktan yung nanay, inaaway. And whenever that happened to this Courage sister, she remembers when she was a child, natatakot siya, diba? And she actually feels afraid for her mother. And she actually wants to protect her mother, diba? So when she grew up, yun yung naging pattern ng kanyang lesbian relationship. So nahuhulog yung loob niya dun sa mga babae who are not happy with their husbands, diba? So yun yung naging 3 lesbian relationships niya. Kasi nga, it was the child in her who was trying to protect her mother, diba? So, but also, because of the scenario that she grew up with, she also didn't want to become a female. Kasi she felt that becoming female is weak, or becoming female is being prone to abuse, physical abuse by males, diba? And then second, so unsafe, so victimized by sexual molestation or other abuses. So we have another case of a third Courage sister. Ganito yung naging experience niya. So nung bata siya, na-molest siya. So there were parang 2 males on separate occasions who tried to molest her. So because of that, she became reclusive. So she was not comfortable befriending males, di ba? And mas comfortable siya sa mga babae. Unfortunately, parang a lesbian person took advantage of that. Nakita na asiwa siya to befriend others, that she was reclusive, so parang niligawan siya, nahulog yung loob niya. So she was in that lesbian relationship for 7 years, diba? Because of this. And then third, narcissistic family system, so either high expectations or negative experience from a father. So emotionally insensitive yung father, alcoholic or abusive. So ito po yung cases sa female same-sex attraction. Yung Courage Apostolate po, sorry. This is also what the Catechism tells us, di ba? So, direct from the Catechism, it says that sexuality affects all aspects of the human person in the unity of his body and soul. It especially concerns affectivity, the capacity to love and to procreate, and in a more general way, the aptitude in forming bonds of communion with others. So, eksakto terminology ng simbahan. So sexuality affects, so it concerns affectivity, so yung emotion, so how are we attracted to other people. Capacity to love and aptitude. So yung mga may corporate background dito, parang kung yung terminology ng simbahan, it seems like it's competency building, di ba? So parang, before ako maging manager, I have to earn this skill. Kasi yung mga words na ginagamit, capacity, aptitude, di ba? So even the church recognizes na merong growth and development process na kailangan before we expect sexuality to be ordered, di ba? Or sexuality to be fully formed, di ba? So yan. This is also, so what does it mean when it comes to family accompaniment? So, again, quoting from Maurice Laetitia, very important talaga dito is parang to be present, di ba? So, yun yung first point on parenthood, to be present for the family, di ba? So, okay, so, when it comes to family accompaniment, siguro depende dun sa age ng child who exhibits the same-sex attraction, diba? So, maybe disclaimer lang, no? So, I'm not a parent myself, so it just so happens that in our ministry, we see the ill effects of parenting, diba? So, that's what we're trying to feed back to all of you, diba? So, hopefully, you can apply it parang dun sa parang in actual parenting parang terminology. So, in terms of family accompaniment, so before pa mag-asawa yung mag-asawa, dapat magkakaroon ng couple wholeness, di ba? So, very important yon. So, lahat po tayo may kanya-kanyang woundedness in whatever form, di ba? So, both the husband and the wife needs to be cognizant of their respective woundedness. So, yung cycle of that parang sinfulness or woundedness will progress, di ba? Parang across generations. So, very important po yung couples formation, di ba? So, and then, kapag yung bata ay 0 to 1 years old, most important po dyan is security, obviously, diba? So, kailangang secure. Kung kailangan kumain ng bata, kailangan makakain siya, etc., etc. So, very important for the infant to feel secure, diba? During that particular time. So, and it covers a lot of things. So, there was an essay done by a development psychologist in Italy. So, according to him, yung mga infants daw, technical term that he used was, yung infants are haptonomic instruments par excellence. So what it means is that yung infant, multisensorial yung kanyang experience, di ba? Even by touch alone, parang pag nahahawakan siya ng tatay or nanay, yung brain sa already help him determine na, ito ang nanay, malambot, ito ang tatay, firm, di ba? And then eventually, parang at that particular stage, na-identify niya na, lalaki ako, I'm like this, di ba? I am not my mother, etc. So, even at this particular stage, parang very sensorial na experience ng infant. So, very important for infants to feel secure in both the parents, di ba? So, it helps them it helps their brain development progress properly and completely. And then third, so 1 to 3 will be bonding, very important then, so that bond with the parents. And then progressively, kapag 3 to 5, dito na nagkakaroon ng same-sex parent affirmation. So this is when the child should or ought to start to spend more and more time or more and more bonding moments with the same-sex parent, diba? So, and then progressively, so kapag pumupunta na sa school, magkakaroon din ng friendship and parents. So, dapat alam din ng parents kung sino yung mga peer groups ng mga anak nila. And then progressively, pagdating na ng 10 to 18, mas gagamitan na to ng reason, diba? So, hindi na enough na no, hindi mo pwede gawin yan, etc., etc. Kasi at that particular age, so the child starts to question more, starts to challenge the parents more. So, mas reason na yung ginagamit dito or yung more like yung chastity also. So, the child needs to learn to use reason to govern passion. So, hindi pwede na porke may sexual urges, hahayaan na lang na i-pursue yung mga sexual urges na yun. And then, kapag yung child ay adult na, obviously, iba na rin lalo yung approach, di ba? So, reason and responsibility. So, I think early this year, a CFC couple, met up with me about their, I think, 22-year-old daughter. So, sinasabi nila yung approach nila sa daughter, nako, parang nililimit siya or parang binabartolina yung 22-year-old daughter nila na huwag kang makipagkaibigan sa mga lesbian friends. So parang depende doon sa the age ng child, so magkakaroon din ng adjustment in terms of family accompaniment. Diba? So depende doon sa responsiveness nung child. Yung principle din, the younger the person, the higher the chance of intervention. Diba? So parang pagpapalit ng papalit, diba? So mas nagiging mahirap yung intervention, diba? So very important talaga yung mga first few years of the child, diba? So yan. And then at any given time, so they must be accompanied with prayer and love. So yung executive director ng Courage, si Father Philip Bochansky, ito yung prayer niya. So Lord, help this person who I love to know your love, diba? So very important. Lagi niya rin sinasabi na yung mga anak natin, anak din sila ng Diyos, diba? So whatever happens with our children, God is also personally involved and personally concerned with them, diba? So parang kumbaga i-raise din ni God yung mga anak natin. So yan. So this is also what we see in the Courage Apostolate. So in the Courage Apostolate, we provide parang a support system. So it's like a sharing meeting, like any household meeting. But for the first time in a homosexual person's life, we can actually openly talk about our homosexual struggles in a Catholic environment and not feel judged or misunderstood. Kasi lahat kami nag-struggle with homosexuality. So as the members of Courage constantly talk about their homosexual struggles, eventually the Courage members discover the underlying causes of homosexuality. So there are many, many causes. So isa-summarize ko na lang into 4, diba? 4 major. So first, not surprisingly, parental issues growing up. So usually with the same-sex parent. So an example of a Courage brother, so lumaki siya, yung tatay niya is an OFW parent, diba? So for most of the time, ang kasama niya lang sa bahay, nanay niya, sisters niya, tsaka mga tita niya. So, puro babae ang kinalakihan ni Courage brother, di ba? So, and then, nung time na yon, wala pa namang masyadong mga Skype or Viber or Facebook Messenger. So, whenever the father will come home, takam na takam maranasan yung pagmamahal ng tatay. Unfortunately, yung tatay, unang tanong, pagsalubong sa airport, unang tanong niya doon sa anak na lalaki, anak, mataas ba ang grade mo sa school? Di ba? So, syempre, nagpakahirap si tatay, gusto niya naman ng konsuelo, di ba? So, what it did to this Courage brother was, akala niya, the love of a father is something that he needs to earn, di ba? So, kasi nga, parang, kapag mataas ang grade ko, saka lang ako mamahalin ng tatay ko. Because yun yung naging experience niya doon sa few moments that he spends with his father, di ba? So, nung lumaki siya, whenever he feels he needs male affection, eventually, he felt that he needed to pay others to do that. So, he engaged in paid sex, di ba? Or parang prostitution to do that, di ba? So, kasi nga, yun yung kanyang experience with masculinity. It's something that he needs to earn, di ba? Whereas, yung totoong fatherhood, fatherly love, is something gratuitous, di ba? So, we all know that. So, yeah. Second, and unfortunately, this is also quite a common cause, quite of a major cause, is an experience of sexual abuse. So, marami pong pain points ang sexual abuse experience. So, first pain point, ang reality po, so this is based on research, 9 out of 10 cases of sexual abuse happens or is being done by people children trust. So, within the immediate circle of the child. So, kasama sa bahay, kamag-anak, kapitbahay, sometimes parents themselves. So, akala natin yung child abuse is done by strangers, di ba? Yung mga pervert. But in reality, 1 out of 10 cases lang yun. So, an overwhelming majority are done by people close to the child, di ba? So, yan. And then the other pain point, so, the other pain point of a sexual abuse experience is yung parang nagkakaroon ng split dun sa tao. Kasi whenever that sexual abuse is being done to them, nung bata sila, instinctively they know that it is wrong, but simultaneously they experience physical pleasure, di ba? So hindi nila alam, ano ba to? Alam ko mali to, but how come I experience physical pleasure, di ba? So ano ba to? Mali ba to or tama? So, yung mga Courage brothers, ganon. So, I interviewed 2, parang who just recently joined us. Pareho sila, they were sexually abused by their uncles. Diba? So, konektado doon. So, 9 out, doon pasok yun sa 9 out of 10. And then both of them said on separate occasions, now whenever they have an urge to engage in a homosexual act, they remember their uncles abusing them, diba? So it's a body memory of that sexual abuse experience that is driving them to engage in homosexual acts, diba? So, and then third pain point of a sexual abuse experience, there's a lot of shame, diba? So a lot of self-blaming. Kagaya nung Courage sister na sinabi ko kanina. Sabi niya, nung umabot na siya dun sa point na she can openly talk about her sexual abuse experience, sabi niya, ano bang mali sa akin kung bakit ako na lang lagi ang minomolest siya? Diba? So kahit kasalanan niyo ng ibang tao, there's a lot of self-blame that is happening. So some of them, one Courage brother, because of that shame, because of that self-blame, actually pushes them to have suicidal ideation. So unfortunately, diba? And then, yun. So, yun po yung mga experience ng sexual abuse. So, an actual case, a Courage brother, he went to the seminary, tapos in-advise siya ng seminary formator niya to sort out this issue. So, ganito po nangyari. Sila magkakapatid, yung parents nila naghiwalay. So, yung father niya married another woman, yung mother nila married another man. And then, so sila magkakapatid grew up with their grandparents. But this Courage brother is close to his mother, so he would spend this weekend with his mother and the new husband. Unfortunately, the new husband, yung stepfather, will sexually abuse him every time that he visits his mother on the weekend. And this went on for mga 2 to 3 years, diba? So nung lumaki si Courage brother, nung nagpunta ng school, we shouldn't be surprised na takot siya makipagkaibigan sa mga klase niyang lalaki, di ba? So, kasi nga, yung dalawang models ng masculinity sa kanya, tatay niya, iniiwan siya, yung stepfather niya, ina-abuse siya. So, parang for him, masculinity is negative, di ba? Kaya pag nakikita niya yung mga klase niyang lalaki, they will either abuse me or leave me behind, di ba? So, hindi positive yung experience. So, dahil ganun yung experiences sa school, syempre, typical boys of his age, tinutukso siya. Sabi, ayaw mo kaming kaibiganin, bakla ka ata, diba? So, yan. So, kakatukso sa kanya, sabi niya, nga naman, siguro nga, bakla ako, diba? So, kasi nga, takot ako makipagkaibigan sa inyo, ang kaibigan ko lang, mga babae, baka nga bakla ako. So, ginawa ni Courage brother, jumawa siya, diba? So, naghanap siya ng male partner, diba? So, while in that homosexual relationship, he realized na hindi pala siya bakla, diba? So the reason why he felt he was different was because of his negative experience with his stepfather and his father, diba? So yeah. Third, negative labeling with acutely sensitive personality, diba? So ito po, I think Filipino culture, we tend to highlight the negative traits of other people, diba? So pango, nog-nog, diba? Baba, bansot, diba? Taba, diba? So that's the tendency of the Filipino culture. So, but unfortunately, tama yung Bible, diba? The word becomes flesh, diba? So, as we call other people, eventually nagiging flesh yun in their lives. So, like for example, 5 years old, kekending-kending na boy, diba? Ay, bakla ka. 5 years old ka, ano ba alam mo sa bakla or tomboy, diba? And yet, if you see or hear adults or people around you call you that, talagang yun may imbibe mong identity, diba? Because that's what society tells you. So, ito rin yung sinasabi ng one psychologist by the name of Dr. Vanden Aardveg. Sinabi niya na itong factor actually na to is the definitive factor, diba? So, dito po, nasa-set yun. Kasi anong nangyayari dito, once a person with same-sex attraction starts to identify himself as either gay or lesbian, yung intervention becomes more difficult. Kasi nga, parang because meron siyang insecurity with befriending parang people of the same sex, di ba? And he feels na yung people of the same sex are hostile people. So gagawin niya, magsiset up siya ng defense wall, di ba? So parang rather than them hurting me, I will distance myself, so I will put up this defensive wall, and I will start to identify myself different from that hostile environment. So, ayan. So, this point talaga, mas tumataas yung parang defensiveness ng tao. So, mas mahirap to reach out to them. Kaya siya tinawag na definitive factor. Kasi nga, yung first two factors are actually factors also that causes other psychopathologies, diba? So, drug addiction, for example, can also be attributed to the first 2 points, diba? So, or yung mga nagsusuicide. For example, yung lead singer ng Nirvana, diba? Tama ba? So, parang naalala niya yung sexual abuse experience. So, that's why parang nagkaroon siya ng suicidal ideation, etc. So, itong third na to, ito yung mas nagiging definitive factor. And then fourth, generational inheritance of sinfulness or occult practices. So, yung tinatawag na generational sin. So, kaya nga, very important yung pre-marriage preparation. Diba? So, to make sure na para na-heal yung generational or woundedness ng tao. So, hindi siya mag-progress to succeeding generation. So, yan. So, what it tells us is that there's an underlying wound that causes homosexual attraction. So, hindi lang po siya nagsimula sa wala, diba? So, and very important po in terms of accompaniment ng woundedness, diba? So, our theology is all about wound theology. So, we all know that Jesus Christ Himself chose to be wounded. So, that's how wounds or man's woundedness are important to our salvation, diba? So, yan. So what it tells us, going back to the story of the parable of the Good Samaritan, so hindi po enough to tell homosexual persons to stop doing what they're doing, diba? So hindi po enough yun, diba? Yung complete pastoral accompaniment should also provide them opportunities to heal from their underlying wound, diba? So ano ba yung nag-cause ng kanilang homosexual attraction? So in the case of the parable of the Good Samaritan, parang sinabi natin sa kanya, I think this is also, I guess, yung initial reaction, we can say, ng mga taong simbahan pag nakakita ng gay or lesbian, na parang, you're wounded, sugatan ka, heal yourself first before you can come to our church, diba? Huwag ka muna maging bakla, huwag ka muna maging tomboy bago ka sumama sa simbahan namin, diba? So it seems that that is the voice that the church seems to be communicating to other people by making conversion a prerequisite, diba? So, yun. Unfortunately for us, the LGBT movement, ang voice nila is something like, oh, you're not wounded, you're not bleeding. Kita mo, meron din ako niyan, no? So, let's celebrate what we have, diba? So, sumama ka sa akin. I-celebrate natin what we have in common, diba? So, so between these two voices, should we be surprised that our brothers and sisters who experience same-sex attraction will tend to navigate towards the LGBT voice and will leave our churches, diba? So, because of our, I guess, our, ano ba to? Parang, our unattainable demand for immediate conversion, diba? So, yan. But an authentic voice of the church is something like, I see you're wounded, I see you're bleeding, let me apply first aid. So, just like what the Good Samaritan did. So, he poured oil on the wounds, put bandage, and then, it goes on with saying, halika sumama ka sa akin, diba? I know of a healer who can heal you, diba? So I will introduce you to him. So that is the authentic pastoral voice of the church when it comes to accompaniment of homosexual persons. So yeah. Or the second pastoral accompaniment point is, do we know where they're coming from? So lahat po ng homosexual persons may pinanggagalingan. So meron po silang kanya-kanyang hashtag hugot sa buhay, diba? So hindi lang po sila naging bakla or naging tomboy out of nothing, diba? So ito po yung key dyan, understanding where it all started, diba? So, and then help them heal from that accompanying wound. Okay, so it's 9 o'clock. So I will just briefly breeze through the next 3 points. So, yung steps lang ng pastoral accompaniment in general, so just following the example that Jesus Christ showed when He talked to the Samaritan woman in the well from the Gospel of St. John, He started not with confronting the woman, di ba? So, bakit ba tanghaling tapat nagigib ng tubig tong babaeng to? Something is wrong with this woman, di ba? So, hindi niya sinabi na, o babae, siguro makasalanan ka, no? Kaya ngayon ka nagigib ng tubig. Samantama mga kapitbahay mo nagigib ng early in the morning or late in the day. He started with a very friendly manner. So, woman, in fact, he started it from a humble, give me a drink, diba? So, he started with friendship, diba? So, yun yung first pastoral approach ni Jesus Christ. Hindi siya nagsimula sa right or wrong, hindi rin siya nagsimula sa pontification, but rather friendship. So give me a drink. And then from using that common need, he eventually led the woman to himself. So the water I will give. So yan, he talked about the living water. And then third, that's when Jesus Christ confronted the woman in her truth, di ba? In her sinful lifestyle. So makikita nyo, as Jesus Christ has shown, yung rightness or wrongness of the issue is the third step. It's not the first step. So laging magsisimula, and that's the third pastoral self-reflection. So are we their friends, di ba? So before we can accompany them, tanungin natin sarili, kaibigan ba nila tayo, di ba? So are we friends enough with them? Do they trust us enough that they will listen to us and parang entrust to us their deep wounds, di ba, in their lives, di ba? Kasi kung wala po yung friendship, all other accompaniments will feel like intrusion, di ba? So again, with that background of defensiveness, mahihirapan talaga tayo to break through. So very important po yung friendship. Second, obviously, so leading them to God, so Word of God, hindi po ibig sabihin yan is babasahan natin again ng Sodom and Gomorrah or letters of St. Paul to the Romans, but rather make them experience that the Word of God is alive, di ba? So Bible study na parang unbiased and impartial. So sacramental life, encourage them to always have recourse to the sacrament of reconciliation, and then use devotions also to deepen their faith. So the fourth question is, are they evangelized? So do they recognize Jesus Christ as their personal Savior, or do they have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ? And then finally, so yun na yung universal call to chastity. So ito na po yung right or wrong. Again, this is the third part, di ba? As Jesus Christ has shown, not the first. So, from 2, 3, 4, 8, so all the baptized are called to chastity, and because all are called to chastity, so from 2, 3, 4, 8, we should not be surprised that somewhere later in the catechism, homosexual persons are called to chastity. Kasi, walang discrimination sa Catholic Church, di ba? Kung lahat tinatawag, syempre, homosexual persons are tinatawag din to be chaste, di ba? So, including 2 points, integrity of the person. So kung ang LGBT pinaghihiwalay ang mga tao, yung Catholic faith wants people to be united. Diba? So unity of life ang goal ng chastity at ng Catholic Church. So which is very opposite what the LGBT movement would like to do. So that, kaya binubuo yung tao so that they can be genuine gifts to others. So chastity leads to charity. So, because according to St. John Paul II, only the chaste man and chaste woman are capable of true love. So, love, again, sinasabi rin ng LGBT, love wins. We all know that our context of love is based on the love Jesus Christ has shown on the cross, which has 2 components. Obedient to the will of the Father. Mahirap magpakapako, but Jesus Christ did that because He was being obedient to the will of the Father, yung vertical beam, and because He was willing the good of the other. So, we all know that yung human manifestation of the love that Jesus Christ has shown is best exemplified in the love of the husband and wife in sacramental marriage. So according from one of the letters of St. Paul, wives, subject yourselves to your husband. So there's obedience, and then husbands, love your wives as Christ loves His church. So willing the good of the other. Kaya nga, yun yung model ng love na yun, diba? So, or selfless form of love. And just to complete the picture in chastity, so usong-uso ngayon ng LGBT, we tend to highlight LGBT. But in reality, hindi lang po yun yung sexual sin. So just to review, all sexual activities outside the sanctity of marriage between one man or one woman is considered a sin. So including masturbation, fornication or premarital or extramarital affairs or adultery, pornography, prostitution, rape, homosexual acts, di ba? So, kaya nga siguro kung ang ministry natin na scandalize tayo kapag may gay or lesbian member, and yet yung mga boys na binibinyagan. So, sige, teenager na yan, binyagan natin, ibigay natin siya ng babae, di ba? So, prostitution, okay lang sa atin. So, double standard yun. So, then we can rightfully be accused of discrimination, di ba? Kasi hindi yun yung full teaching ng church. Or for example, may ibang members ng ating community are struggling with pornography addiction. We are less scandalized, And yet, yung mga members natin are struggling with same-sex attraction, na skandalo tayo. So again, discrimination yun, di ba? So as far as the church is concerned, all of them are sins, di ba? And so they all need to be helped. So opposite ng selfless love are selfish forms of love. So fifth question, are they catechized? So alam ba nila yung teachings ng simbahan on chastity as well, di ba? So just to summarize yung 5 pastoral self-reflection. So do we see who they truly are? Do we know where they're coming from? Are we their friends? Are they catechized? Are they evangelized? So as you can see, hindi lang po right or wrong yung pastoral accompaniment when it comes to homosexual persons. There are many, many more things that we can do. So to end, ito po yung church vision when it comes to homosexual persons. So from the catechism, let's kindly read together. Homosexual persons by prayer and sacramental grace, they can and should gradually and resolutely approach Christian perfection. So as far as the church is concerned, they do not look at homosexual persons as hopeless, as condemned, or as damned, di ba? Exactly yung words ng simbahan, can and should approach Christian perfection. So the church looks at them as future saints, di ba? So this is the good news of the church, diba? When we talk about homosexual persons, we look at them as potential saints, diba? So, and this is what we should all be proclaiming, diba? So, yun. Thank you very much.